Hi, good morning. I'm in my office today answering questions as usual. Most of the questions are coming from readers of You Are the Universe, Discovering Your Cosmic Self and Why It Matters. And of course, you can ask me any question on any topic. And the email address for you is info@jayo.com. info at jayo, JIYO.com. You're of course free to send me a question on any topic, and while you're doing that, please download the app, which is called Jayo, JIYO. It's where we are trying to collectively create the ecosystem for a more peaceful, just, sustainable and healthier world. I see Aurora Carlson is here. She says hi Deepak and everyone else. So I'll say that too. Hi Aurora and everyone else. And thank you for joining me here. So today's question is from Annette Clapp. Dear Deepak, I thank you for answering my previous question, but I pray will you please answer me one more time clearly and directly, because I cannot sleep and think I'm going to die. You may not want to answer live, but could you please answer maybe by emailing me back. Is Krishna the literal supreme God, like it says in the Gita? I have liked chanting Hare Krishna and felt a peaceful vibe at the Hare Krishna temple. But that's when I thought it was all symbolic. Now I found out they consider it literally true that Krishna is God. Please tell me, why did I feel happy chanting? Now I don't want to chant anymore and I feel guilty. I have seen auras around people for a long time, but back in April when I went to see Amma, I literally saw the Om symbol in ethereal form like auras drift up from a man's head while he was chanting the Gita. I also sometimes see a beam of light extending from the medulla on some people. I just recently found out that that thing is also described in the Gita. Is Krishna consciousness the oldest? Is Krishna being literal God a story that is an allegory? What does that symbolize? Or is Krishna a literal person? Thank you so much. God bless you. Annette Clapp. So since this kind of question keeps coming up, and Hindus consider Krishna an incarnation of God, or Vishnu. Hindus also consider Ram an incarnation of God or Vishnu, the maintainer of the universe, Brahman or Brahma being the creator, Vishnu the sustainer, and Shiva the destroyer. Is Krishna God? And what about Jesus? Christians claim that Jesus is the Son of God and came here to redeem us and take on our sins. So here we are. Since you've asked these questions, I will give you my answer as honestly as I can from my interpretation of reality. So here is my interpretation of reality. First of all, let me tell you that the word enchantment does mean becoming one with God through chanting, because chanting takes you away from your normal thought process and then brings you into the oneness of feeling, because you already have a devotional attitude when you chant. So chanting is very useful to experience fundamental reality, or going to the level of fundamental reality. So, but now let me answer your question as much as I can, without hoping to make anyone upset or angry. If you can describe it, define it, label it, quantify it, just name it, then whatever you describe, label, quantify, name is not reality. It's a symbolic expression of reality. No description of reality can be reality. No description. Every description is, as we've said before, a mental construct, and therefore a story that is the result of an interpretation of an experience. No one can deny your experiences, whether you saw auras, or you see the sign Om, or you see Jesus or Krishna, or you see ethereal forms. No one can deny your experience. But remember, the experience itself is either a perception or an image or a sensation or a feeling or a thought. There is nothing that can be called an experience that is not a perception, an image, a feeling, a thought, or a sensation. If there is, tell me what it is. That's all there is. And this, in turn, this activity of sensations, images, feelings, thoughts, perceptions, this activity is given a construct by human beings, and that creates a story about reality. But the story itself is not reality. Which brings us to your question, Annette, if Jesus and Krishna are God. And I'll come to that in 15 seconds. So, is Jesus God? Well, first of all, we know very little about the historical Jesus. We know a lot about the biblical Jesus, as Jesus is portrayed by the writers of the Gospels. But historians like Josephus have very little to say about Jesus, other than he was a rabbi, he was a rebel, and he was crucified for rebelling against the Romans and the traditional mainstream Judaic thought at that time. That's all that's written in history. But then there is, of course, the Jesus of the New Testament, and there is what we call the theological Jesus, the theology that is constructed around the teachings of the man named Jesus. The teachings of Jesus are essentially what we might call perennial philosophy. Truth, goodness, beauty, harmony, and love, compassion, joy, equanimity, forgiveness, loving the other as yourself. And so those teachings are perennial and found in other traditions itself. The story of the virgin birth is a metaphor. How do you die and resurrect again is a metaphor for deconstructing all stories and creating new stories. What about Krishna? Krishna similarly is considered by Hindus the incarnation of God, and therefore the divine presence in that embodiment that is called Krishna or Ram or whatever. My interpretation is that we are all incarnations of divinity, that each of us is an incarnation of divinity at a certain stage of evolution, psychological evolution, emotional evolution, and ultimately spiritual evolution. So the divine is all that exists. the divine is manifesting as experience. The experience of that which we call body, mind, and that which we call universe. And that we are all evolving in that understanding. When we worship another person as a divine being, what we're saying essentially is, I want to have the experience that you had. So that's what I think of as religion. Religion is desiring to have somebody's experience, but not really understanding that, and therefore worshipping the member, the messenger. Therefore worshipping the messenger. As I've said before, if somebody is pointing to the moon, you want to have the experience of looking at the moon, and you don't want to be ending up worshipping the finger. So religion is buying into somebody else's experience, and spirituality is having your own experience. What is that experience? That experience is transcendence. That experience is going beyond subject-object split. That experience is timeless. From that experience is the emergence of platonic qualities: truth, goodness, beauty, harmony, love, compassion, joy, equanimity, peace, and finally the loss of the fear of death. And in that experience then is the deeper understanding that all there is the divine. The divine is that which makes perception possible, and therefore the experience of a body possible, the experience of the world possible, the experience of the universe possible, the experience of thought possible, the experience of emotion possible. What all there is that awareness which is infinite, which is unbounded, which is eternal, which is non-dual, which is non-conceptualizable, which is non-imaginable, which is beyond thought, experiencing itself as everything that we call experience. Perceptions, images, thoughts, feelings, sensations, auras, and these divine beings as symbols of that higher consciousness. It doesn't matter whether the symbol is Om or Jesus or Buddha or any other so-called messenger of God. All reality, all experience reality is a messenger from the divine. The divine is all there is. The infinite is all there is. The infinite is having a finite experience as you and me in our relationships. The non-local is having a local experience as you and me and all our experiences and relationships. The spiritual being is having in you and me a human experience. So if we understand that, then God is the only reality, number one. Jesus and Buddha and Muhammad and Krishna and Ram are symbolic representations of the divine. Death is a human construct for an experience that we call a continuum of arisings and subsidings in the form of sensations, images, feelings, thoughts, perceptions. Birth and death are happening eternally now. The real you is not subject to death because it was never born. So let me end with 4 conclusions. Number 1 conclusion is religion, theology, philosophy, science try and represent truth and a modality of experience. They are systems of thought, and all experience is a result of conditioned thinking. But reality is beyond conditioned thinking. Number 1. including religious conditioned thinking. Number 2, the real you was never born. Number 3, nothing that can be perceived, conceived, named, or is a story can be eternally real. And number 4, if we get the ego construct out of the way, the idea that there is me and the universe, realizing that that which we call me and the universe are all one reality, call it God, that the divine is the only reality. God is the only reality. So a net clap, whatever you do, if it brings you a good experience, go for it and enjoy it. But remember that no experience, no conception, no perception, no story, nothing that can be imagined is ultimate reality. Only you, without the stories, are ultimate reality. And when you surrender to that being, then you will feel a love and a peace that pass all understanding. A love and a peace that pass all understanding. That is God. That is God. That love, the ultimate truth at the heart of creation, is God. Take care and see you tomorrow.